Hey y'all, welcome back to New Slang. I'm music journalist Thomas Mooney. This is episode 164, where I am joined by Linda Jean Stokley and Montana Hobbs of the Kentucky duo, The Local Honeys. So I guess I first came across their music last year when they signed on to La Honda Records. They released a stellar record a couple of years back called The Local Honeys Sing the Gospel. I really loved that record after I went back and started listening through. I highly suggest you go and check that record out if you haven't just yet. Thankfully, though, they just officially released their first batch of new music earlier this month. It's a pair of songs, one called Dying to Make a Living and the other being Octavia Triangle. This pair of songs, they are incredibly poignant and gut-wrenching. A lot of that is because these two songs, they're grounded in reality. It's super easy to think about these songs as if they are about another time, or like if they're from another time, if they're like just covers from the 20s or something like that, but they're not. There's definitely a timelessness to these stories. In saying that, obviously, if we had a time machine and Linda Jean and Montana, they were able to play these songs back in like 1821 or 1921, they would still resonate. They would resonate back then, undoubtedly. But trust me, they're just as relevant for 2021 as they would be at any point during our timeline. We expand on this during the interview, and they do a great job of explaining why and how they became so invested in these type of songs and these type of stories. They were pretty tight-lipped on the specifics going forward, but if Dying to Make a Living and Octavia Triangle are a sign of what's to come, their next record, their next full length, is going to be like this beautifully tragic and poignant collection of songs. Today's presenting partner is our pals over at Desert Door Texas Sotol. If you're asking yourself what exactly Desert Door or a Sotol is, well, it's a premium, high-quality spirit that is similar to a tequila or a mezcal, but in my estimation, it's more refined, smooth, and fragrant. It has a distinct and intriguing palate that picks up on hints of vanilla and citrus while maintaining a healthy earthiness that is quite enjoyable. One of my favorite features about Desert Door is just how versatile it really is. If you want to feel fancy and a little highbrow, it's perfect for a variety of cocktails that call for lime wedges and coarse salt, chopped ginger, agave nectar, sprigs of thyme and sticks of cinnamon. If you're down to muddle some fresh fruit, all that kind of stuff, it's perfect. It's great for experimentation and fine-tuning all of your mixologist skills. And then also, if you're a little bit more down home and casual, you got that denim jacket on. It's just perfect for those short and sweet, simple go-to favorites that hit the mark every time. I'm talking about ranch waters and Moscow mules and palomas and Mexican Coca-Cola with Desert Door. What I love so much about Desert Door is just how genuine and authentically West Texan they are as well. They go out and harvest Sotol plants out in the wild and are aware and knowledgeable conservationists at heart. So next time you're at your neighborhood liquor store, get yourself a bottle of Desert Door. I'll throw a link into the show notes for more information. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to New Slang if you haven't just yet. Check out the Patreon and the merch store. Everything is currently on sale, and I did just add some Lubbock County stickers. What's really cool about them is, right now, if you order one, I'll throw you a 15% discount code for your next order of merch, which I'll be adding the same graphic to some t-shirts really soon. I know, the demographic for a Lubbock County Bust the Hub t-shirt, it's probably really super small, but since I am West Texas based, I guess it's just part of the New Slang brand, if you will. And I promise, you won't look strange in a Lubbock County t-shirt if you live on the other side of the country or anything. I promise. Be sure to check out my 90s Country podcast while you're at it. It's called The Neon Eon. If you're wanting to hear from folks like Clay Walker, Clint Black, and Pam Tillis talk about that era, be sure to subscribe and follow that one as well. I've already mentioned it on Twitter, so I'll go ahead and share it here. Next week, I'll be speaking with Sarah Evans, so yeah, she'll be next week's episode. Super excited about that one. Anyway, anything that I've mentioned these past few minutes, a link will be in the show notes for easy access. And yeah, let's get started. Here are the Local Honeys. Yeah, well, I guess like where I want to start out with is y'all are releasing these two singles this month. And First off, like, let's just talk about those two songs. When did you record them? And then also just like, when did you like get introduced to them? Because I know there's some really great stories behind them.
Yeah. So, this is Linda Jean speaking. So I first heard Dying to Make a Living from, one of my older mentors. His name's Rich Kirby. He lives around, Southwest Virginia and kind of where Kentucky meet. And Dungannon, I believe. And he had a band called the Rich and the Poe Folks, which is a really great string band with John Haywood and Brett Ratliff in Whitesburg, based out of Whitesburg. And Rich is one of those people that really brings all different styles of traditional music together. He had heard it from a band in Southwest Virginia called Fodder Shock, which is kind of a grungy trash grass rock band. But it's really hard to put them in a box because they're one of the raddest bands in the Southeast. They're probably one of my top 3 favorite bands in the Southeast. And so A.J. Mullins and W.V. Hill of Fodder Shock wrote Dying to Make a Living. And we had loved the song, and I'd kind of like sung it a bit, but we didn't really start adding it into our sets until the Black Jewel blockade that happened down in Cumberland and Harlan County in 2019. And if you're familiar with that story and all the stuff that was going on down there, it was just really, really pitiful. If you're not familiar with what happened, the Black Jewel Company, which was the 6th largest coal company in the United States at the time, went bankrupt without telling anyone or any of their workers, which is completely illegal. They didn't give a 60-day notice, and they didn't post bond, so none of their employees were paid, and they had actually written them 2 cold checks and had both of their checks bounced. So all these people that have mortgages, have rent, have medical expenses, their children were getting ready to go back to school around this time. It was the end of summer. And all of this stuff had just been simmering, and Montana and I decided that we wanted to record this song because it literally talks about the breaking down, the medical aspect of your body decaying just for the profitization of other people and to put money in other people's pockets. Because coal mining is it's very dirty, it's very hard. There's been all these bloody wars since the practice has been alive, and a lot of people call it a dying industry. And it's we're just kind of seeing the effects of being in this kind of dying industry or this post-coal society. And we're still in this transitional period. So we wanted to make this song topical for the times, and we actually changed one of the lines in it. The Clinchfield slave line, we changed it to Black Jewel line, so we could call Black Jewel out for being pieces of garbage and being completely unlawful and not having to be reprimanded. And we were just so proud of the 5 men that started that blockade down in Harlan County that we wanted to kind of pay homage to them. And we were trying to think of a song that would pair really nicely with that song. And Montana, I think, had just the right idea.
Is this my cue to come in and talk about?
Yeah, you're You picked right up, Montana. Thank you.
Pick your cues up right. So we'd been playing Dying to Make a Living in a lot of sets, and 2019 was a crazy year, and then to follow up with 2020 was even weirder. We toured the UK and mainland Europe 5 separate times in a calendar year in 2019. So we started playing Dying to Make a Living in the second half of 2019 after we had been made aware of what was going on in Harlan County. We went and visited the miners and their families at the blockade. It was so goddamn hot. And, they'd been out there for 2 months already at that point. And we just kind of sat around and talked to them and played some music for them. And we took that with us, and we'd take it on tour, and in our performances would talk a lot about it. And we decided in October 2019 that we wanted to get in the studio. We didn't really have a plan. We didn't have a full-length album or an EP or anything really ready, but we were just wanting to get in the studio and do something productive, do something creative with these songs that we've been playing. So we chose to cut Dying to Make a Living, and we're trying to find something to pair with it. And our friend Jimmy McCowan had shared a song with us that summer, and it's called the Octavia Triangle. So that ended up being the second song that we cut. Jimmy taught it to me sitting on under these big oak trees at one of our favorite places in the world, Cowan Creek Mountain Music School in Whitesburg, Kentucky. We teach there every year. And he shared that song with us, and it was a song that his mother wrote. And it's kind of, in a way, it's kind of a typical coal tragedy song, that has some awful tragedy happen in it. But it also has an element of love. And it's a love triangle. And so his mother wrote that, and it was a true story. And then we decided, he's one of the finest musicians to ever come out of Eastern Kentucky, and also one of the finest human beings to ever walk the earth. And so we asked him if he would record it with us and play the banjo on it. And he was like, well, yeah, I reckon I can make that work. And so we got to record that with him in Huntington. And that was a huge blessing, not just to be there and to work on this song with Jimmy, but it was one of the last times that we saw him, because after we did that recording, we went on tour and started 2020. And then by, spring of 2020, everything shut down, and we didn't get to go to Cowan Creek Mountain Music School, and we didn't get to see any of our friends. And then Jim passed away very suddenly in October of 2020. And it was almost right. It was like a week or two off from a year anniversary from when we had seen him last in the studio cutting his mother's song. So it's always a blessing to get to learn from your heroes. It's even more touching to us to get to record with them and have a piece of them with us for the rest of our lives. So we always have Jim with us.
Yeah, I think that's just incredible. And I think part of what makes all of this work is that conversation between you guys as a new branch, a new voice in Americana and old time and this tradition, and those older voices. And it's the conversation between y'all as far as how these songs, obviously, how they become new, and you breathe a new life into them because you're keeping up the tradition. And I find that entire world fascinating. I wanted to go back to the Dying to Make a Living song real quick. What I find really interesting about a story like that is how you mention that, people for the most part in a lot of the states and probably the world kind of think of the coal industry as that dying industry. Yet, obviously, this is like a modern song in so many ways. It's, you adapted it to 2019, to like a situation that happened just in our lifetime. And I think that that's an important aspect to show that, that this isn't just in the past, that these things are still happening in like right now.
Right. So like the way that we kind of think of it is that these songs, they never stopped breathing. Maybe it just got a little harder to breathe with all the other things, all the other media and happenings and, modernization of music and commercialization of music. It got harder for these songs to breathe. So giving them a little more air, a little more space in the grand scheme of things makes a huge difference. And maybe updating them a little bit and maybe kind of cherry picking the ones that feel pertinent for the times that we're living in now. So, there's an ugly history of traditional music too. There's a lot of ugly ass, racist, bigoted, sexist songs in the old time, and they're in archives for a reason. And it would be uncouth of us to be digging those up and be like, all right, now here's this one, and it doesn't pertain to the moment in the time. So you kind of have to dig. It's like with every music, every genre, you can find something that you like. You just have to put a little bit of work into it. Like with everything, you have to put a little bit of work into it to find how it relates to you, your audience, the world at a grand scale or whatever. So, we used to use that term breathing new life into it. And I still don't find, I don't have a problem with it, but it's like, I want to update it because I don't think that these songs ever died. I don't think they ever quit breathing because they hold a lot of weight with them.
Yeah, for sure. I think the idea of just new life, new breath being continually put into these songs is the most important part about it, because that's what traditional music is. It's not really a dying art form. It's not. It's an archaic art form. It's a traditional art form, but it is something that is ever evolving, and it's there as a timeline for us to all be adding our pieces and adding our storylines in there and talking about what's happening within our communities and in our regions and in our own personal lives. So I agree with that for sure, Montana. The idea about dying to make a living that I really love so much is, this is, I bet this song was written in the 80s, 90s, but it's been pertinent for the existence of coal mining or just not even the existence of coal mining, but any type of
industry,
laborious industry. My father was a tobacco cattle farmer. He literally died making his living. Everybody can relate to this song, even if they're not a deep miner. But what the thing that really drew us to this song is just the imagery, the just disgusting and brutal imagery of this song that
it's blunt as hell.
You can apply, it's blunt as hell, and you can apply it to all these different industries. And it had the perfect space for us to change that line and call out the black jewel coal mining industry and say, fuck you. Quit doing this. Quit leaving without telling anyone. Quit taking the money from our region. Quit taking the money that we dug out with our backs, broke our backs to pull out of the earth to power the rest of the world. Fuck you for doing that and not leaving a dime of that in the pockets of the people who dug that coal. and keep, like, when people take the money out of our region and then just pack up when things get hard, it leaves us in a very interesting place. So part of what Montana and I do is when we go around and perform, one of the most fulfilling things for us as performers is getting to share these stories that people have not heard about on a national or international level. And we're able to see what kind of malpractices and things that are going good and bad for people all over the world, how they've escaped something, how they've morphed something into working better, how sustainability efforts have helped them. It just really helps us open up conversations about these difficult things to talk about.
This episode of New Slang is brought to you by the Blue Light Live here in Lubbock, Texas. Blue Light has undoubtedly been my home away from home over the years and has played such a vital role not only for my development as a journalist, but obviously it's been one of the foundational pieces for a lot of your favorite songwriters and bands who have made it out of the Lubbock area over the years. And of course, as a music venue, they've played such a pivotal role for a lot of your favorite bands just in general. One of my favorite parts about Blue Light is just how versatile the place can truly be. I've seen it crowded and rowdy on a Saturday night for a rock and roll band, and I've seen it dead still on a Wednesday when a legendary singer-songwriter rolls through town. What you should do is go over to bluelightlubbock.com and check out all the new merch they've added. Hats, t-shirts, both short and long sleeve. They also have hoodies and koozies and just added some sweatshirts that are very much an homage to the college sweatshirt that John Belushi wore in Animal House. And then of course, maybe the crown jewel of their new merch is the Varsity Club style jacket in blue satin. I got one the other day, and yeah, it's just one of my favorite things I own now. And yeah, I don't know, I just love it. Anyway, you can check out all of their new merch over at bluelightlubbock.com. As always, I'll throw a link into the show notes for easy access. Okay, let's get back to the show. Yeah, it's one of those things that goes hand in hand with any big business is the exploitation of the people of that region. And as you said, like taking all the money, pulling all that money from a region. And you see that in, obviously, as you're talking about with coal mining. I'm from Texas, and you can see a lot of that with the oil industry. And one of the lines that y'all mention, or that's in that song, is about that's just like, you can see it as y'all are singing it, is that line about how he stands 5'8", but used to be 6 foot tall. And that
line makes me want to throw up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Like that's like, it's one of those things where you see that in every, or not just every, but like so many older working men who have busted their backs and like broken their backs. And yeah, as the song says, dying to make a living. That line specifically is just so, it's a hard line.
And, you know, it also ties it in there with the idea of then being addicted to Percocet or, you know, struggling for the rest of your life because you destroyed your body for somebody else's profit. Yeah. I have a very, very close friend, and her father was a miner in Floyd County, or from Floyd County, and he had a suspension hook break, like a big long cable broke in the mine and snapped back, and this huge hook that had been holding up infrastructure busted. It, you know, imagine like a bungee cord releasing. It was like that. And that hook snapped back and hit him in the lower part of his spine and dissolved his spine, shattered his lower back. He can never work again for the rest of his life. He's in so much pain. And then you have to deal with the aftercare of that. And there's so many more levels other than just people getting hurt. It's also the effects of that with every one of these moves, there is these effects that are coming off there. So now you've got people addicted to Percocet and or opiates, you know, and then you've got people unable to pay for their medical expenses because maybe a company hasn't paid in enough and taxed enough for their health care to get proper health care. Because there's so many people right now, we're in the largest black lung epidemic in recorded history right now. And there is less and less care for people suffering with stage 3 and 4 black lung because they've changed and very strained thing. So we're very proud to sing this song because of that, because we're proud of where we're from and we're proud of the people. We come from a very hard working ilk of people, and it just makes us so proud to stand on stage and be the voice for the people that work so hard in our area.
Yeah, and I'd just like to say, you know, like, this is not us dogging industry or people who have to work to supply the world with the tools that the modern world is accustomed to. My dad was a railroad engineer for 40 years. And when I say railroad engineer, I don't mean like he's really good at math and calculus. I mean, he drove a train for 40 years and drove coal trains out of eastern Kentucky and brought them into central Kentucky. So he literally was a man responsible for hauling wealth out of the region, you know, call a spade a spade. That's what he did for a living. Yeah. You know, I had never gone to college. I would not be who I am or where I am today had it not been for the railroad industry, also the coal industry. So
absolutely. And I wouldn't have even gone to college if it wasn't for the tobacco buyout, and that I have some qualms with that. But my father, like I said, was a tobacco farmer and cattle farmer, and he passed away from suicide, which is a very, very strenuous thing. And more farmers commit suicide than it's the highest suicide rate of any industry. And I only went to college because I had cashed in his tobacco settlement CDs, and that's the only way that I was able to go to college as well.
Yeah. So, yeah, it feels important to share these songs.
Yeah,
because we do have connections to them.
Yeah,
we do have a history and a lineage with them, and I think the majority of people around the world do too.
Yeah, I think that it's such a complex history, right? And you have to start a dialogue, and part of these songs and part of you guys talking about it is that dialogue. It's obviously not just y'all, but just everyone. America has a complex history, and the only way to help make things better is to have that dialogue. One of the things I wanted to ask about was, you mentioned how you guys had played in Europe, 5 or 6 times in that calendar year. So clearly, a lot of traditional songs, they are rooted in old Irish songs and old folk songs from England. And you can trace a lot of those songs back to Europe. How did you guys have any conversations about, I guess, the exchange of those songs going from there to America, and then obviously kind of returning a different version of maybe some of those songs or some of those early roots back to European listeners?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Continually.
Yeah. Every time we go over. We went to college. That's where we met. blah, blah. We were part of a program in the college called the Kentucky Center for Traditional Music. So basically, we got to go and learn and obsess and get to play with other people and learn how to play traditional music. And it was a very, I've heard people kind of talk poorly about folk artists or folk musicians who go and get a formal education, but to hell with that. I would have never played the banjo had I not discovered it in college. And also, it was a very natural way of learning. We learned orally, I know how to read music. Do I read music to play the banjo? Hell no. Because that just doesn't make any sense unless you're Bella Fleck. But it was a very natural way of doing it. As soon as we got done with college, we flew to Dublin, Ireland, and spent the summer in Dublin. And we met so many people. We didn't go there professionally. It wasn't a career move. It was, the gap year. But we had to fit our whole gap year into 3 months. And so we went over there. We made a whole lot of friends, and we played Kentucky music. And we found a group of people, a quite large group of people all across the country that loved and were obsessed with American old-time music the way that we were. Because we don't really play Irish music. We wanted to learn, and we did play a lot. And so we would sit in pubs and drink and laugh and hang out. And every now and again, they'd play an Irish tune, and we could hear the similarities to it. And, like a lot of times it's the same tune, but the name has been changed. Like, was it Miss McLeod's Reel, Linda? Miss McLeod's Reel was a Scottish tune. Yeah. And then it came to America and, excuse me, the name got changed to Have You Ever Seen the Devil, Uncle Joe? And that, because I think a lot of times the tunes in Scotland, Ireland, the British Isles, what have you, I think a lot of times they didn't have words. But when you travel over, imagine, crossing the Atlantic Ocean in a ship, you probably don't have your fiddle. You probably don't have your instrument with you. You probably had to leave it behind. The only way that you can remember these tunes is by humming them. And the only way that I can remember a tune most of the time is if I attach words to it. So instead of humming like da 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 da, somebody thought, well, have you ever seen the devil, Uncle Joe? It makes it a lot easier to retain, and I think that's in a way, that's definitely how these songs traveled, and it's how these songs were committed to memory, was placing kind of goofy, silly, ditty words to them, So it has been really fun to have those conversations with people abroad who are also obsessed in this weird niche genre of music that we are.
Just a bunch of nerds.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure it's one of those things where I'm sure there's somebody who's done this, and I'm sure maybe even you guys know, as far as the migration of people, I'm sure you can see where those songs, how they travel as well, and then how they split up, and then how they split up even further because of isolation, and especially where y'all are from, where people are on mountains, and it's not necessarily like you are traveling to the other side of the mountain every day and exchanging, especially back then.
Yeah, and I mean, we've even noticed just like the transferal of tunes, even in our lifetime, or just even slightly before us. We play a song that we learned from an Irish girl named Rady Pete. She plays in the incredible band Lankum. If you're not familiar with them, they're one of my favorite bands. But Rady and Dara showed us this song. They had actually learned from Shirley Collins, who was from Southern England. and she actually accompanied Alan Lomax to the States when he took his journey throughout the American South and did a song collection. So we, two girls from Kentucky, had to go to Dublin, Ireland, and by happenstance meet an Irish girl who had learned this song from Shirley Collins, a British girl who had learned it in her youth when traveling along through the American South. Is that not insane? How shit like that travels?
Yeah, absolutely. This episode of New Slang is brought to you by Hot Damn Coffee. Rolling in from the hills of eastern Tennessee is Hot Damn Coffee. It's a down-home company that roasts single-origin, high-quality coffees from around the world. Their year-round roasts come from certified farms in Ethiopia, Tanzania, and Nicaragua. Check out the Hot Damn website over at hotdamn.coffee. There you can find more info on their operation and roasting process and some helpful tips on how to brew the best cup of coffee. They've certainly made my mornings that much better. And to be perfectly honest, I enjoy a nice cup of coffee at all hours of the day. Some of my favorites have been the Tanzanian peaberry in medium roast and the medium roast of Nicaraguan with the honey process. While there, check out their Hot Damn Coffee Club, which is a monthly subscription service. With the holiday season coming upon us, it's just really kind of the perfect gift. I don't care how difficult or easy a person is to shop for, they'll always be good with items like high quality coffee. And of course, right now, if you throw in the promo code SLANG in all caps, that's SLANG, you'll get 20% off your order. And if you're signing up for the Coffee Club subscription service, they'll take 20% off that first month and also throw in a bonus 8-ounce bag of their Nicaraguan coffee. Again, that's SLANG in all caps. Head over to hotdamn.coffee and sign up today. All right, let's get back to the episode. The whole like field recording thing is really interesting because clearly like it took someone like Alan Lomax to go out there and, you know, have the foresight to like, oh, these need to be recorded. And what's interesting now is like,
wow, this is important.
We kind of do the same thing now, obviously in the form of records, but in the form of like YouTube series and sessions and like live videos like that. I think like that's really kind of like the quote unquote, like the modern field recording in a lot of ways.
Yeah. And podcasts, just series like that where we talk and we share stories and, especially now and after what a heinous year, that we all have to kind of reassess and reevaluate how we can connect with people, So I'm very fortunate, even though, Zoom can be a pain in the ass. I'm very fortunate for Zoom. I can still talk to my friends in Ireland, in England, in Texas, in California. After this past year, we have had to, kind of rest on our laurels in a way. Like we had to go back because we make our living as performers, and you couldn't perform this year. You couldn't go out and be on a stage because you couldn't tempt people. God forbid you could. Like we had this conversation many times, like, because people around here were playing gigs and we were like, I don't want people, we put all this work in and it's like, you're chugging along. And then something just all of a sudden the track ends. Right. And then you're like, well, I guess we could go play this show, but then also we would be part of the problem and we would get ostracized for tempting people, being temptresses, for getting people out and gathering. So instead of that, we fell back on how we learned how to play music from great teachers and great mentors and people that we can call, in the middle of the night and say, oh my God, I got this tune stuck in my head. What is this? And they'd be like, oh, have you ever seen The Devil, Uncle Joe? And they're, oh, thank God, So we've begun teaching again on Zoom. And trying to be mentors and people like that are getting people involved and getting people obsessed with this music and this history and these stories, so that one day somebody can say something about Luther Strong, a fiddler from Hazard, Kentucky, and then they'll say, oh, funny thing about that is that Alan Lomax came and went to go record him, and he was in jail. And Alan Lomax had to go bail him out of jail and buy him a fiddle and a fifth of whiskey to get him to play 12 tunes for him. And that was every damn tune he knew. Like, so that stories like that keep going. You know, I hope one of these days somebody if I get arrested, somebody comes along with a podcast and was like, I guess I have to bail her out and buy her some whiskey and go get a banjo and maybe she'll play some for us. Like, hell yeah.
I'm your girl.
You'll probably be there with me. I don't know what you're thinking.
Oh, yeah. I'd be in there too. Never mind.
What I was going to say is you guys have my number now. So, and I have the podcast. You guys can hold me to it. Okay.
All right.
All right. You don't know what you just asked for, buddy. You ready to get woken up at 2 a.m. to talk about fiddle tunes?
Yeah. You're going to be coming to the Three Forks Regional Jail.
Oh, yeah. Like, that's really interesting how what you're talking about as far as this year goes, because, you know, I think so many people just thought that, okay, so 2020, we pause it. All these tours are canceled or postponed. Songwriters, you guys are going to just be writing songs. And I don't think there's not been a lot of songwriters who I've met, who I've been speaking with during this podcast who just went, yeah, I wrote every day. Because that's kind of, you know, that's not easy. That's not like necessarily the way, you know, creation works, art and being creative. And I find that really interesting that you guys kind of go back to what you guys fell back into, what made you like this music to begin with. And that is, you know, researching and finding old songs. And then also, as you put it, like, you're teaching these and hopefully spreading these to like a younger generation, keeping that alive.
Yeah. And mentoring.
Yeah. And
we had mentoring. We had so many, Jimmy McCowan was such a mentor to us. I mean, I think he was 80 years old when he passed away, and you should have seen this man interact with the younger generation. He was so caring and just so willing to share. He didn't keep any of his fanciest trick close to, you know, he didn't hide his cards. He put everything out there. If you said, Jimmy, how do I play that? He'd be like, well, you just do it like this. And he'd do it. And he'd sit there with you for 2 hours if it took, just to learn that one lick. He was so kind and inviting to this community.
My God, he wouldn't cross-tune a fiddle, but he'd do anything else for you.
He'd do a lot. He would do a lot for love.
He would do a lot, but he wouldn't cross-tune a fiddle.
But in a lot of ways, like the music community as a whole, and sometimes I'm proven wrong about this, but there's so many middlemen, there's so many intricacies, there's so much bureaucracy in the music industry that it is set up to feel competitive. And that is something that for this traditional music community, for this old time community that we are a part of, it is not that. Even though it's one of the damn genres that has festivals that says, here's a fiddle contest. You know what I mean? They actually judge you and award you on your playing. But then if somebody comes up to you as soon as you get off stage having won that blue ribbon and says, will you teach me how to play that? It's like, hell yeah, I'd love to sit down with you and teach you how to play this. There's such sharing that it continues to inspire us, and it reminds us that it's our duty to do that as well.
Yeah, and through teaching, there's something about it. I don't know how you know it, but you just know it. When you meet certain people and you have certain students, you identify them immediately and know, okay, that's a tradition bearer. I have to nurture that. And that's exactly what happened to us. When we were first learning to play this music, we were going to Morehead State University, and we were in the traditional music program. And there's a fellow there, his name's Jesse Wells, and he's a absolutely astounding string instrumentalist. And he saw in me early on, like, she's a tradition bearer. She cares about this. She cares about the continuation of this art form. And he gave me every opportunity to capitalize on that. He encouraged me to go to square dances. He was like, there's square dance tonight. Let's go. You ever been? And I was like, no. He's like, well, come. You're gonna learn 9 new fiddle tunes tonight. And really, really pushed me and did not let me get away with shit either. Like, if I was going to learn a tune by Art Stamper, I better play it just like Art Stamper at that point in time to learn it. You know, he was always like, you want to make it your own. That's part of it too. But like, wouldn't let me get away with anything, because he saw me as somebody that he needed in the community to hold it together. And then when Montana joined the program and we both started playing music together, we were some of the only women there. And so we had each other to hold on to and learn to play this style of music together. And then when he saw what a team we were, he just, really supported us and did everything he could to keep pushing us in the right direction. And we owe a lot to him for that.
Yeah. What is it like as far as when it comes to the creative process between y'all? Like, how do you guys typically share songs as far as originals and new ideas? Or do you guys do a lot of writing together as well?
Well, just making art is so, maddening and a release of emotions and a release of something you didn't know that you needed to get out there until you do it. But typically, Montana and I, we're both artists in our own right. And that's one of the things I love about our project, is that we come together as individual artists who have all these different influences and past and stories, that when we do bring songs to the table, then it's like, okay, now it's time to collaborate. So I'll write a song, or Montana will write a song. We get together and we sit around and we work on it and we arrange it and we make it. We just learn each other's songs. Now, that doesn't mean every song we bring to the table is going to be like a Honey song necessarily, but we pretty much always learn one another's songs, and we just think it's so important to do that. But really, our collaboration comes from just doing a lot of things together, finding inspiration by doing things together. But then we kind of write individually and learn traditional tunes individually, and then we come together and kind of make them come to life.
Yeah, and we're getting better at collaborating with one another on a collective idea, on a shared idea. Because like you hear about like those songwriters not rounds, but songwriters retreats or whatever like that, where these
or sessions, just like writing sessions.
Yeah.
Obviously, we don't do them because we don't know what the hell they are.
Yeah, they make it sound like it's just like the most easy, natural, organic thing, but it's not. I don't think it is that easy if you have an idea in your head and you have a storyline and you have these emotions that you want to convey. It's not easy to sit there, even if, somebody is on the same page with you 95% of the time, like Linda and I, we are on the same page. We have had a lot of shared experience, we are musical soulmates in a way, But
Oh.
But still, yeah, it's hard to like convey that idea and be like, yeah, that's exactly what I meant, because it's not coming from you necessarily. So you have to it's a bunch of give and take. It's a bunch of shit. And every once in a while you'll uncover something that you're like, yeah, this relates to me. This relates to you. I think this could, if it can please both of us, then hopefully it can relate to some other people too.
Yeah, like as Linda, you just said, like the creative process can be maddening. And I think a lot of that has to do with, or let me backtrack actually. I think that a lot of times we think of you as a songwriter as like you writing just the song when you pick up the instrument and the pen and the paper and start writing it. But often those, whatever that song is, you've been thinking about a lot longer than that. And when it comes to like the co-writing aspect, I think like sometimes just by nature, like there's this like time limit that kind of happens whenever you are in a session together, because you guys have to split up at some point. And that's like this weird pressure that you don't necessarily think about, that whenever you're writing just by yourself, you have the allowance to just take your time and let it marinate.
Yes. Yeah. We were talking about, we actually went on a writer's retreat just last week. And we went to Bloomington, Indiana, and kind of got ourselves out of our own environment, and had a couple other girlfriends there with us to just kind of not necessarily even be like, we have to write songs all week. It was mostly just like, we just have to write. I don't care if it's a poem, if it's a ditty, if it's, just a thought that you have in your head, just write. And then let's share. Because even for us who maybe identify or have been labeled as songwriters, it's still hard to share. It's still hard to share something that's still in progress, or still like just an idea. We've been ingrained to like keep our mouth shut until we have a thought fully formed, or make sure you copyright that shit or somebody's going to take it from you, But it was just a really refreshing time to sit down and be like you said, to begin this, you were like, I don't know any songwriters that were like, I wrote a song every day during this pandemic, because Jesus, I don't even think Neil Young could do that. It'll wear you out. It'll burn you out.
I don't even think Neil Young could do that.
I hope he hears this. He's like, I'll show her, And but it's like I keep seeing that meme going around that's like, this is a lot of days in a row to have to cook for yourself, This is a lot of days in a row to have to write and be like pressured, because we don't get this kind of time off during a regular year. Nobody does. So it's like you have time to kind of relax and chill and work on your thing, but also you feel this immense pressure to make the most of your time, and to be productive with your time. So it's a real, it's shaky ground in a way as an artist in a pandemic, because nothing's promised, nothing. I don't know. It's a very weird time to be a creator.
Want to break one more time to talk about our pals over at Desert Door and offer a handful of my favorite go-tos. By no means am I an experienced mixologist or bartender or anything like that, but these have been super easy to make and great ways to unwind in the evening. Let's start off by upping your ranch water game a little bit by subbing Desert Door in. I'm a simple man. I just kind of take a Topo Chico, take a couple of drinks out, add some Desert Door, and top it off with a few lime wedges. I'm actually pretty big on the Palomas now too. What I'll do is take some Desert Door, some grapefruit juice, a dash of agave nectar, and some fresh lime juice. And I'm kind of big on lime, so I'll throw in another wedge or two when I pour it over some ice. And actually, I'll do the exact same thing, but I'll substitute some pineapple for the grapefruit for a change up. And now that the weather is dipping down, I've started having a Desert Door version of a hot toddy. Put some Door and some honey together and give it a mix. Add in an Earl Grey tea bag with some boiling hot water. Let it just sit for a minute. Remember, patience is a virtue. And then, of course, I'll squeeze in a little bit of lemon just to have that balance. Anyway, Desert Door, it's as versatile as vodka and more refined, smooth, and complex than tequila. It's rich in balance, so whatever your go-to is, it'll do the trick. For more info on Desert Door, check the show notes. All right, back to the episode. Yeah, like it's because this kind of goes against art, and it's weird to try and like find structure when there is no structure. And I'm sure like you guys agree. Back like early when all of this started, it was very easy to just waste time. It was very easy to just like turn on Netflix and just watch every season of whatever your favorite show was. It was easy to like just waste a week or a month. And trying to find that structure and that balance of whenever there is no schedule, trying to allocate all the time to be constructive and use it in a beneficial way. And obviously it's very, very, when you add art into that creation, it's not the same as like if you were, I don't know, like, you know, making something, you know, it's not the, like as far as like the manufacturing, you're not manufacturing songs, you're writing songs.
Yes, absolutely. But we were in a sense prepared a bit when this pandemic hit, because everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, where's my next paycheck coming from?" And we're like, "All right, whatever. we never know when it's coming.
Okay,
who cares?"
March.
And then everybody's like,
anyway.
"I have all this," and then everybody's like, "I have to stay home and be productive." We do that shit anyway. We have to hold ourselves very, very accountable and make ourselves be productive. And then so it's like our typical life pre-pandemic was, okay, you're on the road for like 3 weeks. You're going to be home for a week or two. Then you're going to be out for 6 weeks. Then you're going to be home for a week or two. So when you were home for that week or two, you put that pressure on yourself and you were like, oh, well, I'm home and I can't write on the road. So I have to write now and I have to do this and this and this and practice. I've got all this stuff I need to do. So it
emails.
kind of, I've got so many damn emails. Play somebody's birthday party, you know, but it was really kind of, I think our blow was slightly softened compared to most people because we have to already kind of deal with a lot of those things that people are now having to deal on a large level. Not to say it has not been easy because of the climate and everything, but we were, I think, a little bit more prepared for it than most.
Yeah, like there's again, like, and I feel like I'm not a musician or an artist, but as a journalist with a lot of free time, it takes discipline to get into just practicing being like in the moment, I guess, and like allocating that time. And so, yeah, I can see how like it would be easier for y'all to get into that. I guess like that little bit of that schedule. Have you guys been able to, I guess, like write for an upcoming record? I know you mentioned a minute ago, like how when you guys recorded these singles, you didn't necessarily have the material to do an EP or a record, but that was about a year ago. Has it been, have you guys been able to utilize the time to prepare a new record and everything?
Yeah. That has been one thing that has been good about this pandemic. We have had fairly consistent rehearsals, safely done. We make sure that neither one of us have been out running around and seeing too many people. We get tested regularly. And we have a rehearsal, and what we do is we just kind of hyper focus, and we spend the entire rehearsal on one or two songs. Instead of having a 4-hour rehearsal where we cover 30 songs, it's a 2-hour rehearsal where we only work on one song or something like that. And that has been really nice to be able to kind of work through all the intricacies of the songs, get really tight, plan the songs in ways to where it's like, okay, this is how we want this to go. Here's some ideas. And also, one of the biggest blessings of 2020 is that we finally, we'd had our eye on these folks for a while. And our friends over at La Honda Records, which is a record label, they approached us and said, do y'all have a new record ready to go? And we were like, we are getting really close. We're working through some things. We've got lots of ideas. We're getting really close to like wanting to get in the studio. And they said, we want to put it out. And we were like, holy shit, nobody's ever said that. We've been waiting for somebody to say that. What took you guys so long? And so we signed with La Honda Records, which felt really good because they are friends. They put out Culture Wall's record, who's a friend of ours, and we toured with him a couple times. They put out Vincent Neil Emerson's record, who is quickly becoming a friend. And we love what they do, and we love their approach to what they do. So we are basically working with La Honda and doing all the things in a professional sense that we kind of skimmed over in our last two records, like actually being professional about it and doing things like this podcast, and talking about things and setting things up in a way that we can be successful and be able to have better opportunities and better tours and, just an overall better album, better music to come out. So we're working on a record. I don't think we can tell you any much more than that. Other than that, new music is coming soon.
Yeah, and then just we have a lot of gratitude. Mm-hmm. Thank you so much for having us today. We have a lot to be owed to you and to La Honda, to the people that inspire us. To our communities, we really appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I mean, like what La Honda's doing, I just love like just how genuine they've been as a record label. Obviously, like you mentioned like the Coulter and the Vincent Neil Emerson records, like those records, you can just tell like they're what Travis has been able to do with everything has been like, y'all make the records. We're not going to like have any kind of, tell you how to make the record. We're not going to tell you like,
that's exactly that.
And that's just like, I think that it's refreshing to see that kind of stuff in music and on the business side of things.
Thomas, in our contract.
Yeah, La Honda Records is most certainly.
Sorry, Lena, go ahead.
La Honda Records is so much of a collaborative. It like everybody that's involved is an artist. Like our manager is an artist in his own right and a brilliant artist. And so it's so just fun and energizing to talk shop and talk art and talk creativity with one another. It's so like rejuvenating. They're just the best. It's really cool to be working with these artists of all different mediums with
under one kind of umbrella. It's really nice.
Are y'all still there?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know if like I'd cut out. There had been a little bit of cutting out, but
There's a little glitch.
yeah. I wanted to like ask y'all about this song here because I feel like this is a new song. I saw it in one of the YouTube videos, the Western as Fuck. Like you guys did this song called Dead Horses, and yeah, like that just felt listening
Gross.
to that song. Well, yeah, I just felt gutted. As someone from Texas who's been around horses, and like my grandfather was a veterinarian, I just felt so sad after listening to that song. And I wanted to, I guess, hear a little bit more about like the writing of that song.
Wanted to yell at somebody?
Yeah, it's not a pick-me-up, is it? It's not a feel-good number.
Yeah.
There's one of Linda's favorite things to do lately, because, it's a pandemic, we can't go anywhere. So she gets on YouTube and just like goes through the comment sections of videos. So of course, naturally, you've got videos of yourself on there and you're like, well, I'm going to go see the comments on it. And, most people are like, don't read the comments. You're a journalist. You're like, don't read the comments. She goes and reads the comments and then sends me screenshots. And somebody was like, I think this is terrible. It made me uncomfortable. It made me cry, not in a good way, not in a pleasant way. And for someone to write this kind of song, they have to be fucked up to want to relive this memory. And she was like, I hate it. I give it 0 stars.
She said only a person with depression brainworms could accurately capture the feeling of the memorialization of the feeling of losing an animal like this. She said, I had horses my whole life, and this made me cry, and not in a good way. And I sent a screenshot to our manager, and he was like, that's the best compliment we could have ever gotten.
It's like, yeah, depression brainworms. They're all over the place. Yeah, man. Okay.
Yeah, well, it was, I can agree with all that. And it's one of those things like after I watched, I had to listen again. So yeah, you're doing something right.
Yeah. We both, I'll swing this over to Linda, but we both grew up in rural places and on farms. Linda grew up in Woodford County. I grew up in Lee County. We both had horses and livestock and stuff like that. So when I first heard it, I was like, yeah, what a weird thing to write about. But the imagery in it is so vivid and almost sweet in a way, even though you're talking about such a devastating topic, the imagery is sweet, and you can tell that the affection is there for this creature that you've kind of lived with and grown with and relied on. And again, this is not my song that I wrote. This is me bragging on Linda. But you can tell that the emotion is there, even though she's not like, the song isn't like, I love horses. It's like, damn, I love horses. And I have you have to let them go, and you have to see them go through hardships too.
Yeah, they're just so majestic and mystical, and like horses are my favorite animal too. Like me and Montana are both really drawn to horses because they're just such an astounding animal and machine, a natural machine, and they're so like spectacular, and like riding is one of my favorite things, and we both grew up riding and having a love for this mysterious creature. And it could have been worse. I could have made it a lot worse. I could have actually put in some more stories. Maybe I'll write some more verses it'll be like the coal miner's daughter thing, where I'll write 9 verses to it, but we'll just keep like a couple of them. But like I almost wrote a verse about my big chestnut gelding getting colicked and getting flipped upside down in his stall in the barn. And we had like his intestines were so knotted up that we had to like drag him out of the barn and get him up and walking. And then we had to get him to the vet. Like we had to put him in a trailer in a lightning storm and take him to the vet. And then we ended up, it was going to cost so much money that we didn't save him. And we still have like regret for it. So that it could have been worse. That's what I'm saying. But maybe I just need to write a specific song just for that horse because he had one hell of an ending.
Hell of an end.
Absolutely.
Hell of an end.
Yeah. You know, one other thing that I love that y'all do, and this is like something that like everyone from Kentucky and West Virginia and like Appalachia that I don't really feel like a lot of people do down here in Texas, but y'all are like from counties and not like town names. And like y'all almost always use the county name versus like a city name. And I think that like that's really interesting.
Well, because in Kentucky, we really truly only have two cities, and that's Lexington and Louisville. And I don't really live close to either one of those. And it's like, would you know where the fuck Betaville is? No. You don't know where Lee County is either.
But we have 120 counties.
Okay, there are 254 counties in Texas. And
damn. Okay.
So a lot of them are like super small, and then like out here in West Texas where I'm from, they're massive. They're like, you know, I think like there's a couple of counties here that are like the size of Rhode Island. So yeah.
Yeah, so Texas has the most counties.
Yeah.
So wait. Does Louis?
I really hate to do this, but I got a lesson starting up here in just a minute. I'm already a little bit late, so I'm gonna have to cut this conversation a little short.
Oh yeah, that's not a problem.
Yeah, y'all can go on if you want to, but I might.
And plus, we can wake up in the middle of the night and call you at 2 a.m. and talk counties.
Yeah, if we need to do that too, yeah.
I might have to because I think maybe there's a couple states that don't have any counties.
Well, Louisiana has parishes for sure.
What about Rhode Island? It's like a thimble.
I thought like there's. Okay, so I had this idea about like trying to find like as many county songs as possible. And so I looked up a bunch of county stuff. I think like Rhode Island has like three counties, something like that, maybe. Or it's Delaware, one of those two. I'm like on Wikipedia right now searching.
We all need to do a research, don't we?
Okay, 5 counties.
5 too many.
Yeah, Delaware has 3 counties. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah, that's insane.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, well, thank y'all so much for hopping on, and sorry for all the trouble with the phone calls and stuff. I think we got a good one though.
Yeah. Thank you so very much.
Having a good conversation with us all the way to Kentucky. Appreciate that.
All right, that is it for this episode. Thanks for listening. Be sure to check out the latest from the local honeys, the pair of songs Dying to Make a Living and Octavia Triangle. Be sure to stop on over at the merch store and the Patreon. Go give our pals a visit over at Desert Door, the Blue Light Live, and Hot Damn Coffee. All right, I'll see y'all soon for more episodes.